Hello everybody, and welcome to the first installment in what I hope will be a 5-part series covering my top 50 most played games on Steam. I do have a bit of an intro to get through, so if you want to get straight to the games, go to this timestamp to skip the exposition. First off, I want to thank my friend Ben for unintentionally inspiring this series. Around the time the Steam summer sale was in full swing, he posed this question to me: are there any good games on Steam? So I pulled up my list of most played games, and as I struggled to explain what some of them were like to play, the idea that eventually became this video was born. I started outlining a script, and 6 months later, here we are. I'd like to say I'm making this list in parts because I want to gauge interest, and when no one watches them, spend another 6 months working on part 2, leaving myself plenty of time to question my existence and run out of what little motivation I have for making these. But in reality, I just realized 15 games in that not only have I written 2,500 words, and this is going to be a long-ass video if I don't cut it up.
Bruh, look at this dude. Wait till you see the... No.
But I also found myself editing previous paragraphs more than I was writing new ones. With my motivation being at an all-time low and the looming threat of transitioning to a full-time position at my job, I decided to try releasing what I had in the hopes that it would motivate me to make more if the reception was good. I've also heard that the act of finishing a project in itself can be a massive source of motivation, so fingers crossed. With that being said, I want to explain the format a bit. This is not a bare-bones top 50 video broken down into 5 parts for the following reasons. Number 1, my writing is way too scatterbrained and inconsistent to pull together such a cohesive script. This will literally be the first planned, scripted, and edited video I have ever released. Number 2, my writing style is heavily influenced by whatever YouTuber I happen to be binging while recording footage. Yeah, I don't have a life. So no 2 games are going to be covered equally, or again, in a consistent manner. Number 3, I haven't really found my personal style of writing and voiceover, so while I have ideas for how I want to cover each game, they don't necessarily fit with each other in a video. Number 4, I also haven't written scripts or recorded footage for the other videos almost at all. This is what my schedule looks like. So consider this video more as an exercise in writing for me as I try to figure out which writing style best suits my creative process and my vision for the future. Please give me feedback in the comments on what worked well or just flat out bombed. This video assumes you have some understanding of video game systems, mechanics, genres, and so on. If you want an explanation of what each genre is like, yell at me in the comments to actually start my series on video game genres that I've literally been planning since last year. There is also no particular order in which I'm doing each game within a video. Just because I put Mindustry first in this video doesn't mean it's my 50th most played game. And I may or may not have swapped out Snakebird for Airport Madness because I suck at writing and couldn't think of anything to say about it. I will have links down in the description to store pages, wikis, tutorials, anything that I think is important related to each game, so if any of these games catches your eye, take a look down there for any relevant information. Keeping in spirit with the reason I made this video, I will also be providing current prices for each game, but I bought most of these games on sale, sometimes for as little as $5, even for the more expensive titles. There will be a link in the description to a website called Is There Any Deal, where you can view any game's current deals across dozens of online retailers and even see what a game's record lowest price is. The Steam Halloween sale at the time of writing is just around the corner on October 28th, the autumn sale kicks off November 26th, and the winter sale will start on December 19th. Okay, intro over. So much for having a good signal-to-noise ratio. Let's jump into the first game. Mindustry is a hybrid sandbox tower defense base building strategy game developed by Anouk in just over 70 hours for the April 2017 GDL Metal Monstrosity Game Jam, an event where aspiring developers have a limited amount of time to make a game from scratch based on a certain theme. Mindustry won first place out of 15 and released on Steam this past September. It also looks like the developer will continue to support the game for a while, boasting a dedicated Discord server and a detailed development roadmap on Trello. The campaign is pretty straightforward. You pick a map from a selection screen and, once landed, do your best to exploit it for all its natural resources, while keeping your core alive and well by erecting defenses to keep out the locals. You place miners on resource deposits, provide transport belts to ferry the minerals back to your core, and whatever you transport back is then available for use building more infrastructure, and, more importantly, defenses. Somewhere on each map is a spawner where enemies drop in at specified intervals and make a beeline for your core. Part of your task on each map is building walls, turrets, and supporting infrastructure to keep the enemy at bay. As the game progresses, enemies get harder and harder to defeat, gaining health and damage with extra hard bosses appearing on predetermined waves. Once you survive to a certain wave, you will be able to launch off the planet along with any resources still stored in your core. You can then spend any recovered resources to unlock new turrets, walls, and other infrastructure components like miners and belts in the tech tree. Great game for the more logistically minded. If you like Factorio or have played a lot of base building games, then this game will be right up your alley. Available on Steam for $6 US or itch.io for any amount you want. Yes, including free. The Airport Madness games scratch a certain itch for me. I like real-time strategy, but lack the technical proficiency and mechanical skill required to compete against other people. I like planes, but lack room to set up my yoke and pedals. And I love management games that require me to focus on multiple things at one time, allowing my chronic addiction to multitasking to come full circle and actually be useful for once. Airport Madness is, as you might expect, an airport management game where you play the role of an air traffic controller working at one of several realistically recreated real-life airports as you frantically scramble to get planes off the ground, land incoming aircraft, and manage runway crossings without causing things to go bottoms up. There are 5 games in the Airport Madness series. 3 are entirely 2D, top-down, what you see on screen is what you get, and 2 are in full 3D, complete with a repositional camera and overlays simulating actual radar screens you might find in a typical air traffic control tower. Most of my hours are in the 3D version, as it feels the most realistic with the multiple screens telling you different things and the ability to look around if I can't quite see what's going on or where planes are. There are a few different game modes to choose from, ranging from time limit challenges requiring you to move a certain number of planes within a given amount of time, to a ramping difficulty option that starts slow but slowly speeds up the spawning rate of inbound planes until you inevitably crash a few. I enjoy Endless for its unlimited crash restriction, so I often just set the rate to max and see how long I can go. Recommended for plane lovers and multitaskers alike. Play while watching a YouTube video on the second screen or on your phone for maximum time-wasting efficiency. Available on Steam for various amounts of USDs. Dead Cells is the first game on our list to fall into the unusual category of Metroidvania, a strange hybrid genre combining the tight, fluid combat of Castlevania games, especially Symphony of the Night, and the ability-based map progression of the Metroid series. It also happens to be the first roguelite on our list, but I'll explain more of that genre once we get to the Binding of Issac. You play as a delightful blob of slime that took over a decapitated prisoner with the intent of... Actually, I'm not really sure what the story is going for. I probably glossed over that part. You got your pick of a starting weapon, invulnerability when you roll, staggering enemies, teleport pads, parries with your trusty shield, and there's even a micro progression system allowing you to level up your character and unlock weapons, making you stronger in future runs. Recommended if you like a bit of a challenge and consider dying only a temporary setback. Available on Steam for $25 US. My friend Mike introduced me to this game since I can't play CSGO super well, more on that later, and its less competitive multiplayer made for a much more noob-friendly experience, with plenty of opportunities for shenanigans. I did play through a large chunk of the single-player campaign, and I found it to be very well written, with good pacing and solid voice acting. A lot of the characters have interactions with each other during downtime, adding to the atmosphere of a tight-knit band of comrades who have been together for many years.
So what would you rather be doing? Just saying, rescuing hostages, doing like slow-mo weapons kills on terrorists. telling people to get off my plane.
You want to be Harrison Ford in Air Force One?
Don't you?
No, you got to be Indiana Jones, man. You know,
I like Harrison Ford better.
that was Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game runs surprisingly well, and I rarely experienced any lag issues during multiplayer, even with me being on Wi-Fi. Good game, I recommend. Available on Steam for $20. Taking a step back from more competitive games, we have Obliteracers, a casual racing game in the Mario Kart vein with a slight twist. Everyone is on the same screen, and once you leave the screen or die to an opponent's weapon, you're out. Power-ups spawn in lines across the track as you make your way around, and another deviation from Mario Kart, you can see exactly what item you will get. This adds some strategy to positioning and making snap judgments on what leftovers to scoop up if you're playing from behind, and I personally like that. I've mainly played single player, and most of the AI can just be beaten by taking an inside cut on the turn, so I can't say it's a super hard game when it comes to the campaign. More of a derpy late night laugh fest with friends than anything. I went on the Steam page as part of the research for this video, and I don't get all of the negative reviews. Don't get me wrong, I understand where they're coming from. The online multiplayer is non-existent, it doesn't have realistic steering mechanics, lack of storyline in the campaign. These are all things that have come to be expected from racing games, at least to some extent, but I don't really see the need for any of them. I've always felt that we need more quote-unquote couch co-op games to play with friends these days, and these games deliver on that simple but fun method of design that made Mario Kart so popular, while adding some new mechanics that put a fresh new spin on the game, and it doesn't require a Switch. Recommended if you've always wanted to nuke your best friend or spouse into oblivion. Available on Steam for $15 US. CSGO is a high-level competitive first-person shooter developed by Valve, the people who made Steam and Dota. It focuses on teamwork and high-skill mechanics centered around the age-old war between terrorists and counter-terrorists. The terrorist's objective is to plant a timed bomb at one of two locations on the map and protect it until it goes off, and the counter-terrorist's job is to, well, not let that happen. Complete elimination of all 5 members of a team results in a lost round. I was never good at this game.
That makes 3 left.
Sure, I've gotten the occasional flick shot, but it never really clicked for me, probably because I never put in the time required to get better. There's not really much else I can say about this game, to be honest. It's a great game if you're into that sort of thing, but not recommended if you're looking for a casual experience. Available for free on Steam. Ah, the Binding of Issac. A game I could never get down well enough to complete a single run. And I've tried. A few times. Issac is a top-down roguelite dungeon crawler with a harsh, gruesome art style and a very twisted narrative. If you happen to be a Christian, I don't recommend this game if you value your innocence. With that being said, Issac is one of those genre-defining games that, since its release, has become the go-to for a solid roguelite experience. Without going too far down the immense rabbit hole that is the roguelike light genre, you play the game in runs, short bursts of gameplay that take place in a random procedurally generated game world, in this case the basement of Issac's house, defeating randomly spawned enemies and collecting randomly spawned loot and items that either buff or debuff your character in a variety of ways. There are over 500 total items in Issac, and high-level players can rattle off what each one does simply from memory, and that doesn't even include enemy attack patterns, which they've also memorized, and you also have item synergies that can lead to game-breaking scenarios where you could end up with a room full of batteries or infinite money, or both. Check out Grayfruit's Issac videos for a great showcase of just how broken this game can get. Link in description. However, no matter how overpowered you get, or how many items you have, if you die, it's game over, and you're sent back to the character menu. There are items that give you extra lives, but I'm trying to cover 50 games here, cut me some slack. The random generation ensures no 2 runs are exactly the same, so the experience feels fresh. You do unlock items as you play by completing objectives, and there are challenges to complete if the normal game loop gets boring. It also supports Steam Workshop, so if you ever wanted to fight Thanos as Joseph Joestar and have the bro sound effect play when you get hit, you can. Don't know why you'd want to, but you can. I don't judge. Available for $15 on Steam, with 2 DLC available for $11. Alright, the first RTS on the list, and as luck would have it, Forts doesn't fit the stereotypical RTS formula, so I will discuss that more when we talk about Planetary Annihilation. At some point. In a future video. If I ever make one. All you need to know for now is that RTS stands for Real-Time Strategy, and Real-Time Strategy describes Fort's gameplay pretty well. You pick from a variety of commanders, each with a unique passive and active ability to take control of a fort with 2 objectives: don't die, and obliterate your opponent using whatever comes to mind. The gameplay loop is pretty simple. Protect your reactor, expand your technology, increase your resource income, build big weapons, and blow your opponent's force to pieces. This game also supports mods, so if the base game feels a bit lacking, try out some of the maps and weapons other members of the community came up with. Available on Steam for $15. I was actually surprised to have 10 hours in this game on Steam. Most of the time I spent in it was in Firefox back in 2012 on the state-of-the-art Inspiron 660 my siblings and I shared. It's still around too, my sister uses it on a daily basis. Visiting it after all these years wasn't really the nostalgia trip I was expecting though. Over the years, the developers changed the game in some fundamental ways that didn't preserve the high-skill strategic battles that I remember so well. Tanki has always been pay to win, but it feels like it's become worse. Maybe that's only because I've actually spent money on a free-to-play game since I last played Tanki and become more aware of the marketing tactics, but the whole feel of the game has changed and I feel like I was just under-equipped compared to everyone else. Everyone's using power-ups, they added these drones that give temporary buffs like bonus damage or dealing damage to surrounding enemies on death, literally making suicide a viable attack strategy. All in all, it was a great game back in the day. It's still pretty alright now. Maybe let your 12-year-old play it and they'll have a blast. Available for free on Steam. A Hat in Time is an adorable indie exploration-focused 3D platformer by Gears for Breakfast that many have likened to Super Mario Sunshine in its graphics, mechanics, and overall tone, and is really a love letter to the genre-defining games of that era that shaped the lives of so many people over the years. You play as Hat Kid, a spacefaring girl who doesn't take crap from anybody, including the Mafia when they bust down her front door asking for a toll. Your job is to collect timepieces, hourglasses that power your ship through the power of pure plot, I believe. There are 4 worlds to explore, each with its own theme and unique twist on level progression, so each world feels fresh but maintains continuity when moving from level to level within each world. You start your journey in Mafia Town, an island inhabited entirely by well-meaning members of the Mafia with an affinity for cooking. After collecting enough timepieces, you can unlock the Battle of the Birds, a movie studio run by 2 avian directors, the smooth-talking and disco-savvy DJ Grooves, and the belligerent, foul-mouthed conductor.
You moon penguins are just gonna write some loud, noisy treble. If I wanted a bunch of picnics to dance around while on birdseed, ha! I'd visit my grandchildren.
From there, you enter Subcon Forest, a dismal and foreboding place home to my favorite character in the game, the Snatcher, voiced by Luke Sizemore, aka Youngtown.
You blew it! You totally screwed yourself! Nobody enters my home and leaves in one piece!
Gears for Breakfast allowed him to make the voice himself using multiple layers of effects, and I really loved the end result. The final world you visit is an open world experience, allowing you to pick where you want to explore first, in any order you wish. Once you've collected enough timepieces, you fight a final boss, and you're done. This game has enough charm to put General Mills to shame, so that's a bonus if you dig it. platforming can be a bit frustrating at times, but the controls are tight, so I can safely say I just need to get good. Voice acting is off the charts amazing, as you've heard, and you can ride a Roomba, worth the price of admission in my book. Available on Steam for $30. And with that, we've covered the first 10 games on my top 50. If you have questions or constructive criticisms, feel free to leave them down below. I will probably do a Q&A at some point if I feel it's necessary. Part 2 is coming whenever I get around to it, I guess. Probably never if this one bombs and turns out I'm shit at making videos. We'll see. Transitioning to a full-time job limits my time greatly, so we'll see if this ever happens. If you liked this video, feel free to share it with a friend or family member, maybe that guy dressed up as Santa in front of your local Walmart. If you disliked it, send it to your ex, or your least favorite in-laws, or that guy dressed up as Santa in front of your local Walmart. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later.